We have decided Ruto must go, and you have decided we will vote. We just don't know for who. And that's important. That's an important base right now. And it's an important place to be, because then we are not raising people in cults. That's how you end up with people in cults who, you finish this election and you really know who you're voting for in the next election. That's a cult. It's madness. Ruto is looking back and saying history is ripe with evidence that money and violence can get you to power. And that's why we are seeing a lot of violence, and we are seeing a lot of money being used. Parliament can impeach the president. They impeached the deputy president for what? For saying shares. They can impeach this one for saying shoot, right? Shoot and shares. Shoot sounds like a more grounds for impeachment than someone saying shares.
Yes.
In the police, the president appoints who the IG of police is. And of course, Parliament then vets, and most of the time Parliament is a rubber stamp. And that in itself is a problem, because if you're a political appointee, ideally then you serve at the behest of the president. And the police service has then become the president's private militia. There's some people want to overthrow the government. There's a planned coup. They've made up stories in their heads and convinced themselves that that is the reality. And there are signs of people who perhaps have a mental health issue. You create your own
imaginary world or something.
And you live in that reality. He's used to listening to his own voice, listening to his own advice. He is the greatest president that this country has ever had. He is our savior, the best thing that ever happened to us after Blue Band, right? But
great to see you. Hello there, and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadiel Kabiro. It is always a pleasure to have you joining us every single day for these conversations on policy and politics, hoping that those who are in leadership positions can actually do what is best for this country. I'm here with Jim India. He's an activist and analyst, holds all titles when it comes to politics and governance. Says it as he says it. He's a truthful guy. I know that for sure. I've known him for a long time, and he's here with me to talk about what is happening in this country, because things are bad. That's the only way to describe what is happening. And the question is, can they even get worse? Which is the way forward? That is my conversation with you. Great to see you. How are you doing this particular afternoon?
hey, Jadiel, great to see you after many, many years.
Yes.
Happy to be here finally doing this. Doing fantastic, and just looking forward to have a conversation on the state of the country and where we're headed.
How did we get here? This has become my first question, because I'm getting a lot of the same answers, and I just want to know from you, is it lack of leadership, or is it about listening, or is it about Kenyans just are more accountable than they were before? I was just talking to you earlier, and I was telling you the president is even asking, why are things so bad for me? You didn't do this to Kibaki, you didn't do this to Uhuru. How did you get here?
We got here a number of ways. So one, after 2010, right, long battle for a new constitution, and we had the no team and the yes team. And since the inauguration of that constitution, we have consistently voted for the people who are in the no team. So basically the people who didn't believe in this constitution, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. And so for our people who said they wanted a new constitution, it is very interesting that then we went ahead and have voted consistently 3 times for people who did not believe in this constitution. Because what we're seeing is just an attack on the constitution. It is a people who do not believe in the implementation of that constitution, a people who do not want to uphold it in any way, shape or form. And so that for me is the genesis of our problem. But moving beyond that, we have then, and coming to the sentiments that the president says, why is there so much anger against him, Ruto, than against any other president, is that we gave Uhuru Kenyatta so much leeway as a people. He got away with so much. He got away with corruption. He got away with murder, extrajudicial killings. He got away with torture. He got away with special police units that were just designed to abduct and torture people. And he got away with bodies being discovered in rivers and all that. And what this president is saying is, if Uhuru got away with it, I should also be entitled to get away with it. if Mwai Kibaki got away with it, I should also be entitled to get away with it. But what he forgets is that nations go through cycles, especially generational cycles. And it always befalls upon the young generation in any society to fight for that generation. The old look up to the young when things are bad. And all that to say is that maybe the past few young generations have failed us, right? After 1992, when we were fighting for the repeal of Section 2A, we've not had any major struggle where young people have stepped up. And so it is the first time in modern history, the last close to 35 years, it's the first time in modern history that then the young generation are being asked to step up. And society always does that, time and again. You can go back all the way to when we were fighting against the colonialists. It is the young people who society looked up to. So right now, we're in a state where the society is calling out for young people to stand up and defend the nation, and the times are calling for young people to stand up and defend the nation. But the powers that be does not get it, because we've not had this for the last 35 years. So where is it coming from? They've been used to the comfort of getting away with impunity. They've seen their predecessors get away with impunity. And so to them, it feels like a personal attack.
They're not getting it.
But it's not a personal attack. It is just
the times.
It's the times have changed, and we've seen this history. It rhymes or repeats itself either way. But we've seen this before, and we're seeing it again.
And now the president says, if they come, shoot them in the leg. Wapitie hospitali as they come for charges in our courts. How has this statement for you intensified, or how has this statement reached you when it comes to this conversation that we're also having about? It's time we talk as a country, but the president now comes up with that statement immediately after Raila has said, let's have a talk. How is this statement reaching you?
It doesn't bother me as much. And the reason, I'm not saying it's a good statement, it just doesn't bother me because whether the president said it or not, the police have been shooting and killing people. It's not like they were waiting for his orders, his public orders. Even before he said shoot them in the leg, Rex Masai was very shot in the leg and he died. We didn't need the president to say it for the police to do it. So that statement was, for me, a culmination of what we've seen in our police force.
It's nothing new.
It's nothing new. A force that has been used to excesses, a force that whenever they go for protest, they arm themselves to the teeth. They arm themselves as if they're going for war and for battle. A force that does not recognize human rights. Either, all the international human rights principles that protect the right to protest, they do not recognize them. Because if we can count the number of people who've died in this country as a result of police bullets, all the way back from 2007, that's why we had Major General Ali go to the ICC, who was the police commissioner then, because the police were directly involved in the killing of more people than non-police people. And so fast forward to events in 2017 when Raila lost the election, and even in 2022, we are talking way more than 2,000 people, if you add the numbers from post-election violence in 2007, who've just died at the hands of the police. So it does not, whether the president says shoot the leg, or the chairman of the defense committee, Nelson Koech, says shoot to kill, or Murkomen says shoot. Whatever word they use, it does not matter. The police have been doing it.
Why is it so difficult to transition from a police force to a service? I know the name has changed, but why is it difficult for the police to offer services? Because we are saying you should just guide the protesters. Don't kill protesters. We have transitioned. We are giving different training. Why is it difficult for us to see the results of this training that they are having?
One is that they're not having training. Beyond what happens in Kiganjo during recruitment, most of our police officers have not been trained beyond that. And it's a training that lasts a couple of months. So they don't do regular training to upgrade their skills. But the Constitution had also foreseen that we would vet police officers. There was something that was called the vetting of police officers. And the idea was that we would vet, at the time, in 2013, 2014, we had about 77,000 police officers in the force back then. And the idea was that we wanted to vet all police officers to see those who had criminal records, those who were corrupt, those who are involved in any form of human rights abuse. They were to be vetted and cleaned out of the force. And then we were to remain with honorable police officers, because we do have some of them in the force. We were to remain with honorable police officers, and then our recruitment would then now mirror that vetting process. But that process was halted, I think, in 2014 or 2015, after the vetting of only 4,000 police officers. And it has never taken up again, because the police saw it as a personal attack against them. And Uhuru Kenyatta, in his first term and even in second term, and William Ruto now, never picked up the idea of vetting police officers to just, separate the wheat from the chaff and say, these are bad, we don't need you in the service, and we need to recruit better. But interestingly, also in our country, we have this twin problem of, in law, they say, de jure police independence, but you also have what we call de facto political interference. So de jure police independence is that on paper, in law,
You're independent.
you're independent, right? We have given the police their budgets. There's a police IG. You guys run your stuff, run the show. You're independent.
De facto.
But de facto is that this political interference. The political interference starts with the fact that the executive appoints the IG of police. You see, in the army transitions are well known. The president can promote generals here and there, but it is rotational. It goes to the Navy, it goes to the Kenya Army, it goes to the Air Force every year. So they rotate it. So it's predictable. Everyone knows it's whose turn it is. All that the president does is, you swear them in or you whatever. But in the police, the president appoints who the IG of police is. And of course, Parliament then vets, and most of the time Parliament is a rubber stamp. And that in itself is a problem, because if you're a political appointee, ideally then you serve at the behest of the president. And the police service has then become the president's private militia. To do the president's, protect the presidency, essentially. Where it is not service to the people, utumishi kwa wote, which is everybody, but it is more, how do you ensure that the president stays in power through the use of lethal force against any dissenting voices and opinions. And that's what we are seeing so far, that you have a president who's so scared, who's so used to listening to his own voice, including through his own advisors. He's used to listening to his own voice, listening to his own advice. He is the greatest president that this country has ever had. He is our savior, the best thing that ever happened to us after Blue Band, right? But any dissenting opinion, anyone who holds a contrary opinion and says, sir, you're not as great as you think you are. We think that you're incompetent. For instance, we think that your friends and those around you are irredeemably corrupt. We think that a lot of the money that we see going around this country every weekend is our money, and it's not being accounted for well. And so by that virtue, we're trying to hold you accountable. That he sees as a personal attack. And so what does he do? He runs to his private militia, which is the police, and they use as much force as possible to instill fear on the people, so that you're afraid of speaking up, you're afraid of showing up to a protest, you're afraid of tweeting, you're afraid of showing up to a YouTube channel like this and say anything that you want, because you know that they can come for you at any time.
You said something interesting, protecting the presidency.
Yeah.
Are there other ways of protecting the presidency other than using the police, as you put it, the militia, private militia? Would you say there's another way? Because it's all revolving around protecting his presidency. It's all revolving around, I want to get to 2027 by all means possible. Is there another way for the president to protect his presidency now that we're seeing this unrest?
I don't know why there's need to protect the presidency to begin with. I mean, we have the presidential protection unit. Most of them even reside inside State House. You have the National Intelligence Service as well, whose work is to ensure that the president is safe. Because ideally, we want the president safe. But there's this fear, and it's a fear that has often come from the president's side of the political divide. That there's some people want to overthrow the government. There's a planned coup. They've made up stories in their heads and convinced themselves that that is the reality. And there are signs of people who perhaps have a mental health issue. You create your own
imaginary world or something.
And you live in that reality, right? And so all your response is from that reality of people want to overthrow me. I don't think anyone has been interested in overthrowing this government.
Come on, they
In
want
fact,
to march to State House. They're saying one term. This is what the president is thinking.
I mean,
they want me out now. Ruto must go.
I mean, ideally, everyone has said, and people have said this, we want the president gone. And for the president to go, there's so many options. You see, the social contract that we signed with him in 2022, it's a 5-year contract. But just like any contract, your contract, my contract, at your places of work, contracts have termination clauses. There is a way in which you can terminate your contract legally. And guys are saying, sir, the 5-year contract that we gave you, it was not permanent and pension. It was not permanent. It is not you must serve until 2027. There are termination clauses in that contract. And one of the termination clauses is that you can resign. And so Ruto must go is, sir, resign from office. It is given in the it is allowed in the constitution for you to resign. That is not overthrowing you. That is you realizing that we have a point that we are making and deciding, okay, I'm going to resign so that you guys can then have a country and decide how your affairs need to be run. But he has refused to resign, right? And he's not showing any signs of resigning. The other way of terminating that clause is through impeachment. Parliament can impeach the president. They impeached the deputy president for what? For saying shares. They can impeach this one for saying shoot, right? Shoot and shares. Shoot sounds like a more grounds for impeachment than someone saying shares.
Yes.
And they can hold him responsible for all the many extrajudicial killings that have occurred from the protests. So impeachment is an option. And so both of these routes that are foreseen in the Constitution look like they might not happen. He doesn't look like he can resign. Parliament doesn't look like it has the spine to impeach him. And so the people are then left with 2027. And what we're seeing is, and the president keeps saying, sasa ni wakati wa maendeleo, tuache siasa. But Jadiel, let me ask you, when young people showed up to the streets last year to reject finance bill, wasn't that political? In political science, I remember my political science class, I was taught that politics is the distribution of resources. When people show up and say, we don't like the way you're distributing our resources, that's a political movement. And so young people are political. We're not dividing and saying time for politics and time for development. We are political. One-term movement, Ruto must go movement, it's all political. The president is on top of SUVs every weekend.
Even today,
at least every 2-3 days, he's on top of an SUV trying to ask people to say 2-term, right? If he is campaigning, why should we not campaign? Why should we not de-campaign him? Because our goal is clear. The president has to go. He can choose to use the 2 methods envisaged in the Constitution now and terminate his contract, which he will not do. So we will campaign from now until 2027 and get him out through the ballot. So what he's seeing is he doesn't like people campaigning. He does not want us to campaign, but he wants us to give him the time to campaign. We will campaign. And don't ask about where the candidate is. That's a non-issue. We woke up one day and the next day we're on the streets. We can wake up today and the next day we have a presidential candidate.
Who do you want to see as a presidential candidate? I'll ask you that later on. But what is fueling these protests? The president says, as you put it, they want to overthrow him. The president says it's the opposition. The president and maybe his allies are also talking about one tribe. There's a tribe that wants him out. That's why they did not disturb Kibaki. That's why they did not disturb Uhuru. You know, after we looked at Occupy Parliament last year, you would think, things will change. The president actually reshuffled cabinet, brought experts from the opposition side. This year we had Sabasaba, Kenya National Human Rights Commission saying 40 people dead. What is fueling this so that we are here again, and there are also talks of Nane Nane? Why are we here again? What is fueling between that 1 year? We should have seen some change.
It is a tone-deaf president and a tone-deaf parliament. I've held that parliament is the weakest link in our democracy. If we had a functioning parliament, we would probably not be here. If we had a functioning parliament, June 25th would not have happened because there was public participation. The opinion of the public was overwhelming that we did not want the finance bill. But Parliament insisted and went ahead and passed the bill at the behest of the president. And then the events of June 25th happened. But if you had a responsive leadership, a leadership that is not, you have a leadership that is just full of pride, that looks down on the people, a leadership that feels that because you are elected, you then become a god and the rest of us become your servants. A leadership that almost hates its people. You see how they show up in our villages, in their SUVs, on our bad roads. You see how they hand out 200, 300 shillings to young people because that keeps you in your poverty. You see how they don't invest in education, they don't invest in, because they want you stupid, they don't invest in healthcare because they want you as sickly as possible so that you can call them to your harambes and they can show you how much of gods and, awesome people they are. That has been the behavior of our political class. And then you have a people who are slowly waking up and saying, that is not right. That is not what leadership is. Leadership must have a sense of humility, but it must also be humble enough to listen when people speak, humble enough to recognize when you're wrong as a leader, that you don't have all the answers, and that the people do not expect you to have all the answers. As a matter of fact, they have all the answers because of their lived experience. So Parliament has refused to play its role of oversighting the executive, but also of representing the people. It's such a dual relationship where you need to represent the people and represent their wills, desires, aspirations in Parliament, because we can't all show up in Parliament. But you also need to oversight the executive to ensure that you don't have executive overreach. You don't have a situation where the executive uses excess of its resources that we've given to it. So because of that dual problem, and are people rising? Are people getting consciousness? People are suddenly awake and alert. All the years that schools and civil society organizations and the media have played in doing civic engagement are suddenly paying off. We are seeing the dividend of all the years that the opposition, whether good intent or not, tried to do civic engagement, trying to ask the people to show up to the streets, to stand up for themselves. We're seeing it paying off to ordinary young people who are not political. And these young people are now asking hard questions. So that's how we are here. We are here because Parliament has refused to listen. We are here because Parliament feels like they are a law unto themselves. And we are here because Parliament and the President believe that they can shoot their way out of this problem. And so they believe two things. They can shoot their way out of this problem. And number two, they can buy their way out of this problem. And those are the two cards that they hold. We will shoot our way out and silence any dissenting voice, kill, murder, torture, disappear anyone who's of a contrary opinion, and instill fear in the rest of you. But number two, we will buy our way out. You've heard voices of people saying, kura isipotosha, tutajaza.
Tutajaza.
That's saying we will buy our way out of
women
this.
rep. There's a woman rep was saying tutaiba.
Tutaiba too. So they believe that they can do those two things. And the rest of you can do nothing about it. Because those two methods have worked before.
Yeah.
They have worked before. You have presidents and parliamentarians who've used violence and money to ascend to power. Kibaki used it in 2007, and he ascended to power. And so if Mo used it for so long, and he ascended to power. And so Ruto is looking back and saying, history is ripe with evidence that money and violence can get you to power. And that's why we are seeing a lot of violence, and we are seeing a lot of money being used.
Will it work this time round? Money and violence.
The optimist in me wants to say it will not work, right? The optimist in me wants to say that every time I've showed up to the streets and seen the people who've showed up, my heart has welled up. I've almost shed tears just thinking, oh my goodness. The last 10 years, I have been talking and I felt like I'm talking to myself. Finally, there are people who are listening. They're out here in the streets and they're exercising their democratic right. And I want to believe that those people will show up on election date. Because if you look at data from 2022, I know IBC has not released all of it, but you look at the number of people who did not show up to vote. You look at the number of people who did not register, who were eligible but did not register to vote. And you start having some hope. You're like, majority of those are young people. you're like talking about 10 or so million votes. Young people who are not interested in politics, who looked at Raila and looked at Ruto and said, this can't be my options, and so I'll stay out of this. Those numbers give me hope. Those numbers give me hope. And my only point of concern is the fact that the movement has not gotten to a strategic point yet. We are still in a forming stage. And you know how group dynamics work. When you're in forming or storming stage, it's chaotic, and you know there's backbiting and backstabbing and finger pointing, and it's a bit chaotic right now. But hopefully, if you look at how movements develop, you get now to the norming and forming stage. The norming and forming stage is the most critical stage, because then there's clarity on what needs to happen. I hope that we get to a point where we realize we don't have to agree, we don't have to concur with each other, we just have to be aligned. So for instance, our goal is Ruto must go. I don't have to agree with why you think Ruto must go. If someone thinks Ruto must go because he's not from their tribe, that's their problem. I do not agree with them. I think it is stupid. But I am aligned with them that Ruto must go. The reasons notwithstanding. If someone thinks Ruto must go because he killed young people outside of parliament, I am all with you. Let's get him out. If someone thinks Ruto must go because they have a preferred presidential candidate whom they want, I am all for it. That suddenly all of us who have the same vision and the same destination can come together, and we do not try to agree. Because we will never agree. But we have a common enemy and a common destination. So long as we are marching on the same direction, even if we have different reasons, that is fine. So I'm hoping that ultimately, if we get to that stage, then I think that violence and money will not work, because you will have a people who can fundraise for themselves, like they did during the protests. People who do not leave each other behind, where you saw anyone who was injured was taken care of, their families were taken care of, people showed up at their funerals. And young people demonstrated Utu. You know, that's basic humanity, something that the political class has failed to do for so many years. Basic humanity. The opposition, with all the deaths that has followed them, they have never done what these young people did last year of saying, we have 140 young people who are in hospital. We need to ensure that they get out, they are treated, they go home, their families are safe. And if that spirit of comradeship and Utu can continue, then no matter how much violence and money we see, Ruto will go.
Has Kenya Kwanza exhausted its window for dialogue? Because this is what Raila is saying, let's just dialogue. We get to 2027. Has it exhausted that window that things are bad, that Ruto has to go now by whatever means necessary? Is there room for dialogue?
There is room for change, and you know, we can't kid ourselves. There's room for change. There's room, for instance, between last year June 25th to this year June 25th, there was room for personal reflection on the side of the political class. There was room for, you know, Parliament to introduce reforms in how police protests, how they are trained, how they, you know, conduct of police officers. There was room to do that. There was room for the president perhaps to consider his economic policies and see what really is a priority for this country. Is housing really a priority for this country? Or are there more pressing needs? There was room between then and now to really give reparations to the families of those who are affected, give an apology for the conduct of police officers because of June 25th. There was room to do all that. But what we got was disdain, what we got was mockery, what we got was chest thumping of saying how they had won. What we got was ridicule. That's what we got out of all that madness that we had last year. And so, from a public point of view, you're thinking this is an irredeemably incompetent, corrupt regime that is set on its ways and does not see the need to change. They are set on their ways. And it could also be an age thing, right? It could be, vijana wanatuambia nini? What do they know? They don't even have a political party. They don't even have a presidential candidate. What do they know about politics? What do they know about leadership? This disdain that you constantly get from an older generation that feels entitled to places that they've gotten to. Some of them feel like they've fought for this country for so long. And so, what have you, Jadiel, umepigana wapi? I've been to detention, I've been to, what can you tell me, right? And so they look like they're set on their ways. And because of that, because there's not any glimmer of, again, I just call it responsiveness, none whatsoever. There's no appreciation that there might be a structural issue here. For instance, a lot of it is fueled by unemployment that you and I probably know tens, hundreds of young people who we went to school with and who are our neighbors, who are our relatives, who are jobless, despite their academic qualifications. And you do not see a plan to sort that out. You do not see any plan to sort our unemployment issue in this country.
Wanapelekana majuu.
All that they're saying is, we have
according
created
to Ruto.
400,000 jobs, doing slave trade today. That's all that they're doing. And I think because of that, it's just anger. You're clueless. You're not in touch with what's happening. Instead, what you're getting is a president who's bent on all these foreign trips and climate change and all these wonderful things that they talk about. But as a society, we need to create jobs at a massive scale level. And the only way you do that is through industrialization, right? You need to create massive industries that just produce a lot of goods, okay? That can employ thousands of young people in there. And the only way you do that, unfortunately, is you have to pollute. And I know that that's not a politically correct statement to say, but no nation ever industrialized and ever got to be an economic giant by going green and doing all these wonderful things that the West are telling us to do. And so there must be an appreciation from the political class that how do we create industries in Kenya? How do we tap onto the oil that was in Turkana and Kamea 1 and Kamea 2 and to start mass producing jobs and things like that? But they are more concerned about this tender and that tender and saying how they're the best and building houses, construction and whatnot. And if you know anything about construction, is that like in Nairobi, all the malls that are coming up, it's a great place to stash ill-gotten wealth and money that we cannot account for. So the Auditor General, for instance, is saying that she cannot account for all the money that has been contributed through the housing levy.
So is there room for talk? And what do we talk about? And who do we talk with?
So here's the thing, and I told someone yesterday, Raila wants to talk. By all means, let him talk. The thing is, we don't have monopoly of how to fix this country, monopoly of ideas on how to fix this country. We do not claim that our ideas and our directions are the best. And we recognize the guys on the other side, they also care enough to some extent about this country, and they have some ideas on how to fix this country. And so my philosophy of late has been be and let be. If the other side wants to have a generational conclave dialogue, by all means, let them have it. Let them gather around. Maybe they'll have a come to Jesus moment as they do that. Let them have, because if Raila calls for a dialogue, people will show up. He can mobilize enough, people will show up. So whether we say no or yes, the dialogue will happen. The president, if he wants to have dialogue, he will get enough people to show up for his dialogue. So that for me is not, it's neither here nor there. If they want dialogue, they can have dialogue. It will happen. The issue for me is, instead of spending so much time demonizing their dialogue or saying how it's a bad idea, I think we need to spend more time organizing. What they do on the other side, those are sideshows. Because now we've spent so much time talking about Raila's dialogue and wasted precious time that we have used organizing. And because of that, I think for me, what Raila decides to do or not, that's neither here nor there. That's his prerogative. He's also, I think, gotten to a place where he needs things to keep him busy. So, yeah, acha azunguke 47 counties, amalize, akuje Kasarani, ama aende Uhuru Park, asome 10-point agenda. Let him do all those things. And
you've said your philosophy is be?
Be and let be.
Let me ask you this. We're in the formation stage. You talked about it. Let's agree that we're all in the same line. We want Ruto out. The formation stage, I talked about Matiang'i and Gachagua and whoever. Will this be a disadvantage when we have a split in caucuses? And do you think we can actually agree on a candidate? can we get there? Because this is how they are blaming or how they are castigating the young people. Leaderless, rudderless, at least now we know the rudder, Ruto must go. But leaderless aspect, do you think we'll have a leader? And how do you think we can get to that point? I was talking to you earlier about Senegal, where even journalists all said it is this person and the person was elected. Can we have that one person?
Good thing is that we can only have one president. So regardless of how many candidates show up, we can only have one president. But again, as I was telling you earlier, that we're in a constant loop. And everything that is happening right now, I always like to ask young people not to think that there's anything special about us and about our times. This has happened before, and it should happen again. When we introduced multi-party politics in '92, one of the tactics that the Moi government used then was they ensured that there were so many candidates to run for elections that it would give President Moi an easy win. That all he needed was the opposition to split their votes, because he knew he had a base. He knew he had a people who will vote for him, come rain, come sunshine. Same to Ruto. The people will vote for that man, whether we like it or not. The people who believe in him, for whatever reason. And so the idea is ensure that the opposition is not united, ensure that you have as many candidates within the opposition ranks that run for elections, than run for the presidency. And then these guys will all get different votes, and then ultimately the president gets to win. So that could be one of the strategies, that among these people who showed up and want to be president, some of them, I think, genuinely want to be president. Some of them are also state agents who are backed and supported by the state and being asked, make sure you run for president. We'll give you all the backing that you need. We'll give you all the resources that you need. Ensure you run for president. We don't need you to win. You will not win. Everybody knows you will not win. But your running is significant enough because it allows the president to win his elections. So that's one of the challenges that we're going to have, is that other than President Ruto, you're going to have a couple of other people who are asked to run just for the sake of running. But within this opposition figures, all the different characters and names that you've mentioned, I think young people, and that's why for me I said, until we get to a stage where we realize we are doing politics. This is not a utopian moment. We are not being idealistic or not. Politics, at the end of the day, is about numbers. It's about who's able to marshal as many numbers as possible. The young people have the numbers, and they need to back a candidate who can as well convince as many numbers as possible. So I've seen some of the names that are being thrown around, and like, yeah, you sound like a great candidate, but sir, you can barely
Marshall.
You can barely, Morara Kibasa has probably gone around this country more than you. Morara Kibasa has probably covered more ground than you have. You who says you are interested in running for president.
I like my question. Who do you think is that guy that can deliver? Apart from those that will come up. I like this question because this is a debate. We saw Maraga on TV and everyone is saying he has 2 million, he wants to mobilize, he wants to get money. He looks like a good guy. Who do you think is good enough for 2027?
I don't know, to be fair. I don't know who is. I think we still have... I'm those voters who... I like to know my candidates a bit more. I don't know much about Maraga. I know enough about Matiang'i to know that I cannot never ever vote for him.
Gachagua.
I know enough about Gachagua to know I can never ever vote for him. At least those two I know. But I don't know enough about Maraga, for instance. I don't know his history before he became CJ. He was in the Moi days. So we need to interrogate him a bit more. What does he really stand? We don't know much about his stance on many things. And so we do not want to be shocked when we elect him and realize, oh my God, what did we just do to ourselves? And all that, there's the Okia Omtatas who I think also want to run for president. You have your Eugene Wamalwas, your Kalonzo Musyokas, and all those characters. Now in 2027, is a long time. I think right now you have more undecided voters.
Who have decided on Ruto must go.
We have decided Ruto must go, and you have decided we will vote. We just don't know for who. And that's important. That's an important base right now. And it's an important place to be, because then we are not raising people in cults. That's how you end up with people in cults who you finish this election and you really know who you're voting for in the next election. That's a cult. It's madness. you barely know your candidate. Someone has already decided. Me, I know who I'm going to vote for in 2027. You must be crazy to do that. But we need enough time to interrogate candidates. We need enough time to define our values as a people. What's really important to me as Jim India? And then which of these candidates represent that? Because a lot of young people are right now going through that value definition stage of saying, what matters to me? Life matters to me. Human rights matters to me. Social, economic rights matter to me. Okay, if those things matter to me, which of these candidates then represent those values? And you can interrogate them based on their track record in the past. You can interrogate them based on their manifestos. You then have a criteria to interrogate them. But right now, asking someone who are you voting for in 2027, we are, what, 2-3 years away from 2027?
You are not a cult, you said.
I'm not in a cult. I am an undecided voter. I know Ruto must go, and I know I will vote.
Finally, is there hope for this country now that we are talking about dialogue or not? Protests, businesses are being destroyed. The government doesn't seem to be listening. Will we even get to 2027 as a country? There's talk of anarchy, there's talk of coup. If there's a coup, then the military will take over. There's all that. Is there hope for the country, for the listener thinking, well, Jim, you've said a lot and you are very knowledgeable, but will we even get to 27? What is your final message with regards to hope?
It's not all gloom and doom. And, anytime you sit back and think about this country, think about the leaders, you feel like, you switch on your TV and you hear someone's voice and you're just thinking, what are you saying? You see Raila's called a press conference and you're thinking, boss, enter home. Enter home. Enter to home. And it could feel a bit discouraging. Now, that is also intentional. And I'd like the viewers to know that anytime you go into the media, whether social or mainstream, a lot of what you see is intentionally put out there for you. How you get to where we were many years ago, where people were apathetic. People didn't care about politics. People our age didn't care about politics. It's because politics was so bad, right? In fact, we even had a phrase, politics is a dirty game. And so anyone who thought that they are upstanding citizens thought, I want nothing to do with politics because it is a dirty game. And anyone, you ask people, what's your basic definition of politics? Politics is a dirty game. And then you saw a lot of the violence that followed politics. You saw the corruption. That was meant to make you so discouraged that you want absolutely nothing to do with politics. You do not want to go for public participation meetings. You do not want to call your member of parliament when you don't like a bill. You basically become a voting machine. You get involved in politics as far as voting is concerned. After that, you do not care. And so we bombard you with a lot of bad news to make you feel discouraged, to make you not want to be part of politics. And it's a tactic that is used by politicians. And I'm seeing it right now. All the things that you say, there's a coup, there's anarchy, we want to ban the country, the military wants to take over, there are foreign forces, Ford Foundation, Russia, Nikazi ya Shetani.
Yeah.
We say all these things and then, shoot a couple of people, kill a couple of people, kill innocent girls in their sitting rooms watching cartoon to make you feel like, I am never ever taking part in this politics. It's enough. But here's the hope for me. The hope is that for the first time in recent history, I said since 1992, the repeal of section, because we didn't have as much struggle to get the new constitution, to be fair. There was general consensus that we needed a new constitution. Since 1992, the sub-sub of 1992, we have not seen young people own up the political space, try to wrestle the republic back to the people. And that for me is the hope. The hope is in the consciousness that is happening among young people. And the hope is in the small things. Before the protests of last year, we had the femicide march. And a lot of people fail to see the connection between the femicide march that happened last year and then every form of political protest that happened after that. Women were able to organize themselves so well across this country. They showed up in numbers. And I remember watching that and thinking, this is different. I have never seen this level of organization across the country and this many people show up. And women showed up and they marched against femicide. And a few weeks later, we then started having the Reject Finance Bill protests. And if you showed up at the protest, I know no one did the statistics, but by my eyes, majority of the people that you saw at those protests were women, young women. If you went online, especially on TikTok and Instagram, majority of the people who are influencing people to show up and doing real authentic content were women. People who genuinely loved this country. The increase in the cost of pads became such a driving force to get men and women out onto the streets to march. And the women carried this protest so much that it made it as successful as it were. Those for me are the glimmers of hope. That you have people who are starting to realize that our issues are connected, our battles are connected. Whether you're marching against femicide, whether you're marching against a finance bill that you do not like, whether you're marching against corruption, whether it's some random village in the middle of Kisii where people have decided to protest because their road is bad and they decided to build the road with their bare hands. Whether that is the thing, imagine all those protests are connected. And we become, every day you hear of a small protest happening somewhere. It is the people refusing to bend the knee to the political class. It is the people refusing to be passive citizens in this country and suddenly becoming active citizens. That for me is the hope. That is the hope. And if you feel it, because I know all of us sometimes sit back and feel it, then we're in the right direction.
Yes, indeed, we are in the right direction. Thanks for tuning into that conversation with Jim India. You agree with me, should be coming whether weekly or monthly. Let me corner him so that we can agree to have these conversations that I say we hope will genuinely help this country both in politics and policy. Do you think you can take a leadership position? 2027. You can't be having this knowledge and then you keep it and you talk to us and then you don't change the country. Do you think you can? Ama these conversations are enough? Think about that. We'll talk after this show, and of course we'll be coming again and again because I've asked him. I haven't even asked, we've demanded. Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day. Thank you for gracing this particular show.
Thank you so much, Jadiel.